Okay, let's jump right into a really big topic for your A-level psychology, psychological hardiness. Seriously, this is one of those key theories you'll absolutely need when you're explaining individual differences in stress. So, getting a good grip on it is going to be super important. Let's do this.
So this is the big question, right? The one hardiness really tries to get to the bottom of. And you've definitely seen this in real life. I mean, think about your friends, your teachers, maybe even yourself. When things get tough, like during exam season, how is it that some people just seem to, I don't know, kick into another gear while others kind of fall apart? Well, this theory suggests the answer is all about personality.
So here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll cover the main idea. Then, we'll nail down the 3 C's. That's your core AO1 knowledge. After that, we'll look at how to apply it for AO2, check out the key studies, and finish up with those all-important AO3 evaluation points. The stuff that gets you the top marks. Okay, so let's set the scene. The whole idea of hardiness really came from a pretty simple observation. You've got a bunch of people, right? They all go through the exact same stressful stuff, but some of them get sick and others seem totally fine. Psychologists were like, hang on, what's going on here? And the answer they came up with was that it comes down to a particular personality style. Yeah, the best way to picture it is kind of like psychological armor. This theory, which came from a researcher named Kabasa, basically says that some people's personalities are just built with this natural buffer. It's like a shield that protects you from the wear and tear, both physical and mental, that really bad stress can cause. All right, now this is the absolute must-know stuff. This is your AO1, the core knowledge. Seriously, if you take away just one thing today, make it what's on this next slide. It is literally the foundation of the entire hardiness theory. And there you have it. That's the definition you want to have memorized word for your exam. Hardiness is all about 3 key things, and they've got a super easy to remember name: commitment, control, and challenge. Or, as you'll always hear them called, the 3 C's. So what do these actually mean? Let's break them down. First, you've got commitment. That's all about being fully involved in your life, your work, your family, your hobbies, instead of feeling distant and isolated. Then there's control. This is that core belief that you can actually influence what happens around you, that you're not just, a leaf in the wind. And finally, challenge. This is the really cool one. It's about seeing difficult situations not as scary threats, but as opportunities to grow and learn something new. Now, here's a really important point. These 3 things aren't just separate items on a checklist. You can't just have one or two. Kabaza's big idea was that they work together, like a team, a protective triad. I mean, having a sense of control is awesome, but by itself, it's not enough. You need all 3, commitment, control, and challenge, working together to build that really strong buffer against stress. Okay, so we've got the theory down. Now let's switch gears to AO2, which is all about applying it. This is where you show the examiner that you don't just know the definition, but you can actually use it to explain real-world situations. And even better, this is where you can make some brilliant synoptic links to other parts of your course. And check this out, this is a fantastic link to make. Hardiness fits perfectly with Lazarus and Folkman's model of stress. Remember that? A hardy person looks at a stressor, that's the primary appraisal, and they don't see a threat, they see a challenge. Then, for their secondary appraisal, they don't think, oh no, I can't handle this. They think, yeah, I've got this. That little mental flip, it changes absolutely everything about the stress response before it even starts. Let me give you a really clear example. Imagine a teacher with a super challenging class. A non-hardy teacher might feel threatened, maybe they'd start to pull back. But the hardy teacher, they're still committed to those students. They believe they have control over the situation, that their teaching methods can make a difference. And they see this tough class as a challenge, a chance to get even better at their job. See? Commitment, control, challenge. And it's the exact same story in an office. Let's say a big company announces layoffs. The hardy employee doesn't just feel helpless. They stay committed to their career, they take control by learning a new skill or reaching out to their network, and they see this change as a challenge, a potential door to something new and exciting. And this is exactly the kind of thing researchers like Maddie observed in their big studies. So the theory sounds pretty solid, right? But what about the evidence? Does it actually hold up in research? Let's take a look at the key studies that really form the backbone of this whole idea. First up, we have the classic, the original Kabasa's 1979 study. You have to know this one. She looked at about 800 business execs who were all under a ton of stress. And the finding was crystal clear. The guys who didn't get sick were the ones who scored highest on the 3 C's. But, and here's a perfect point for your grave analysis, just look at that sample. We're talking about all male, middle-class, American executives from the 70s. So how much can we really generalize those findings to, well, everyone else? It's a bit of a stretch. Then, backing this up, we've got a really important study from Madden. He studied employees at a telephone company that was going through massive layoffs, super stressful stuff. And he followed them over time and found that the high hardiness employees were healthier and kept performing well. It's great support for the theory. But here's another easy grave point for you. Even though the sample was a bit more mixed, it was still just one single company. That again makes you question how generalizable the results really are.
All right, let's get into the really juicy stuff, your AO3 evaluation. This is what separates a good essay from a great one. These are the points that show you can think critically about the theory.
So let's start with the strengths. First off, there's a lot of solid research to back it up, like the studies we just talked about from Kabasa and Maddie. It also connects really nicely with other psychological models. We saw how it links to cognitive appraisal, and it can even help explain biological stuff, like why hardy people might have a calmer stress hormone response. And maybe the best part? It has real-world applications. Hardiness isn't something you're just born with. It can be trained, which is huge for workplaces, schools, and even the military.
Okay, but it's not all positive. There are definitely some limitations to consider. For one, some psychologists argue that the 3 Cs overlap a bit too much with other ideas like optimism and locus of control. Is it really a new concept or just old wine in a new bottle? Also, a lot of the early research used self-report questionnaires, which can be pretty unreliable, right? And maybe the most serious criticism is that it can lead to a kind of victim blaming, suggesting that if you get sick from stress, it's because your personality is somehow weak, which totally ignores all the massive external pressures people can be under.
Okay, let's wrap this all up. How do you put all this together for, say, a top-scoring 16-mark essay question?
Well, here's your final verdict. Hardiness is, without a doubt, a super useful idea for understanding why people react to stress differently. But, and this is the key, it's a protective factor, not some kind of magic shield. It's one important piece of a much bigger, more complicated puzzle. You still have to consider things like social support, a person's environment, and just how intense the stressor actually is.
So my top tip for getting into that top band in your essays is this. Don't just describe hardiness. You have to integrate it. Talk about how it changes the way someone appraises a situation. Make a synoptic link to the stress physiology, like the HPA axis, to explain why it protects their health. And use it to explain real-world issues like workplace stress, to show why some people are more prone to burnout. That's how you show you really, truly get it. And I'll leave you with this final thought. Is resilience something you're just born with, or is it a skill you can actually build? Well, the cool thing about the hardiness research is that it really points to the second one. Sure, some people might have a natural advantage, but ultimately it suggests resilience is a skill. It's something you can learn, you can practice, and you can develop. And that, well, that's a pretty powerful idea to hold on to.